can you talk a minute about the various types of music? I mean, I know that you can have a hit song over the credits, and there are other things. Could you talk about that for a second?
As far as the way music is treated for film, you're talking about
the way it's used in the movies.
Well, I mean, most ways that people pay attention to really is, like you say, like a hit song over the end title. That's generally something where they will find an existing song, something that's going to be coming out as a single that they can tie in with the film's release, so they get a little bit more marketing bang for what they're trying to do. So, you know, it's instantly recognizable. You get a great emotional burst. You can, you know, potentially put it on the film's trailer, and also helps sell more records. That's one way of doing it. You can also have something written specifically for the film in that way. The other type is, you know, again, you get a little bit more into music created specifically for the film, which is something that I, you know, am much more passionate about, more than just even just the licensing of music, because then it gives you the opportunity to work creatively with the artists, with songwriters, with composers, and kind of craft something that works organically with the picture. And a lot of times it is, you know, it's much more gratifying to have that kind of like hands-on approach to it. Plus, you're also creating an asset for the film that then they can own and you know, get more revenue from later on, and actually can, you know, do some more creative stuff with.
So you not only license music, but you hire people to write
Yeah,
music.
do a work for hire for like the composer or for a songwriter, and basically, you know, as it says, a work for hire, you own the copyright and then have it specifically created for the motion picture.
Do you see any trends? I mean, does music change in what music you use in movies?
Constantly. I mean, everybody watches everybody else's work. You know, it's like films become a lot more sophisticated in the way they use music, so it's you have to kind of be on your toes and kind of watch what everybody else is doing, so that you're one step ahead of the next. There's a lot of competition in that regard, and the same thing can be said for underscore. You know, you look at the past, you know, like 30, 40 years of the way that that film scores have evolved from, you know, the basic, you know, golden era of Hollywood film scoring to what it is now. It's almost, you know, sound design and scores start merging, and songs and scores all start merging. They all start becoming one, and you have to be really deft at the way you use all those different tools.
Well, so, who do you have to? I mean, you have to convince the director. Is that the guy?
Yeah, I mean, what I always say is, like, you know, the director is more or less the final say of what goes into the picture if it's done properly. You know, a director worth their salt is going to be able to say, okay, that's great, I love that, I love that. You know, eventually the studio who's spending all the money is going to have like a veto power of some sort, but if they trust their director, they're going to let their director have their vision. A music supervisor's job is not to necessarily pick and put music. They're there to advocate for music, for using their experience and their kind of like, you know, sense of, you know, everything from budgeting and everything like that, and relationships, to say, okay, why don't you listen to these 4 songs for that one scene and see if anything works for you. And the director says, you know, yes or no, or, you know, I want something a little bit more like this. And it's the supervisor's job to kind of put everything, the plate before the director, who can then pick and say what they want and kind of temper it, and not necessarily have to have the director pick all the music, although directors these days are becoming more and more savvy about, you know, breaking bands and everything like that as well.
Can you think of an example where great music has helped a mediocre picture, or the reverse may be true? So,
shoot, I've worked on a lot of mediocre pictures, so really? I like to think, you know, it's always the case when I worked at Trimark and Lionsgate, I didn't have much of a choice about what pictures I worked on. I worked on everything that they had. So in a lot of cases, you'd get a Leprechaun 6. In the hood, and they'd be like, Joel, we need 16 brand new rap songs. And I'd be like, oh, okay, I'll see what I can do. And you know what, my job is, what I always told everybody that I worked with, is not to, you know, figure out how to fix a movie. It's how to use music to elevate what's already there, because you know you can't really necessarily fix a movie using music. You can make it more interesting, but then you can always get to the point where you're starting to force it, and you can tell when it's being forced. And you're just throwing everything against the wall, and it just starts sounding a little desperate. But if you kind of keep your level of quality up, you know, that's the best can be expected. In fact, you know, you talk about something that was, you know, pretty terrible. You talk about seriously like Leprechaun 6, Back to the Hood, or something like that I worked on, and those are some of the best movies I worked on, because you know they were pretty much ignored by the studio and gave, you know, me free reign to kind of do something really interesting. It's not always what I would say is my finest work, just because, you know, you have to deal with what you got. But it's the kind of cases where you're presented with a challenge, and where something is utterly terrible, you can, you know, make it, you know, watchable, which is, you know, sometimes the best you can do. So.
Well, that's a good start anyway.